negotiating with somebody now for about 2-3 months. It's been a really hard negotiation because his claim is extraordinary, not only because it's paranormal, but it's an unusual claim that I don't think any of us have ever heard before. Several IIG members said it's not testable. I stupidly said, I think it's testable. And I say, of course, the inevitable consequence of that was that I had to negotiate with him. This negotiation is still ongoing, and that professional statistician in the room, if there is one, there are some very delicate statistical questions on this one that we haven't really resolved. So I'd like to hear from you about that too.
But we get new claimants coming in on a regular basis. Most of them fall off very quickly.
And maybe the repeat, and maybe the claimant that reappeared after a couple of months yesterday will be something we can talk about at the next Captain.
Question?
How do you keep, like with the original challenge, the James Randi challenge, they shut it off for a little while because they were worried about encouraging people who had mental problems. So do you guys do something to screen out people that where you don't want to play into their psychosis?
We don't actually have a formal protocol. We do actually have a member who has experience as a psychologist in a prison, who ran groups for, I think it's okay for me to say this. In fact, I think I saw him here. Yes, he's back in the corner. Is it okay for me to say this? Yeah, sure. He ran groups for men who had killed their mothers. If anybody is qualified to deal with this kind of issue, I think it's him.
How long did it take you from the time you first got his name until you got that last email?
Good question. So the question was, how long did it take us from the start to the finish on this? We started in the middle of January, and it completed the end of February. So it was about a month and a half. And by all standards of IIG that we've heard so far, this is fast.
This is fast.
Really fast. Some of these take literally years. Wow. Question?
What are some of the claims that you get, and do you get outside help designing your protocols when there's something that you're not sure how to test?
The dowsing is actually a fairly common claim. Ability to read minds is common. Telepathy, that is. There's currently a claimant who claims that they can tell what music is being played in another room by telepathic means. That is to say, there's a person in the other room they can communicate with. If you've read any of we haven't had a spoon bender, I don't believe, but I'm sure that at some point we're likely to get it. Something like spoon bending. And if you read Skeptical Inquirer, and read about what all kinds of claims are, we can test most of them, and we get them.
And it's also important to remember that we've not only got our local group, but there's a group down in LA and groups across the country. And across all of that, there's an awful lot of expertise. There's people that have lots and lots of diverse backgrounds, and it's remarkable. You throw a question out there and you find out, oh yeah, I happen to have done a dissertation on that. It's pretty good.
Question?
Yeah, have you thought of having an additional card, or perhaps changing the other card in the future where it says, do you have superpowers, and then you flip it over and it says, well, put up or shut up?
Well, I think we actually wanted to encourage people.
There is that temptation.
There is definitely that temptation. You know, they call these stealth cards, but the example of me using it with Russell Targ was anything but stealth. I mean, I stood up and said, "Hey, can you prove it?" And we want to appear independent. That really our only agenda is to is to be able to test these guys fairly. So the language has something to do with that. Question?
Yeah, Terry, you mentioned that you define what a near pass would be. Is it important to get the claimant to agree that a near pass is a failure?
That's a tough one. Jay, who was responsible for negotiating with this fellow, did not actually, I believe, say anything like that.
He claimed to be perfect.
Yeah. So, they're actually much more willing to go along with what I would consider, in my hat, as negotiating for them to be unfair conditions. And so, raising that with the claimant is just not likely to be good.
Yeah, so what we do is we make it clear and explicit what a pass is. And anything that isn't a pass is a fail. There's always some fail that is closest to a pass. And I understand why Jerry says if they get there, it's going to be uncomfortable. Turns out, by the statistics, this is not likely to happen, and so far hasn't.
So in terms of negotiating for a claimant, the claimant in this case believed he could do this every time perfectly. And, I kind of negotiated for him to say, well, let's give him a chance to fail here so that he couldn't come back and say, oh, I'm only human. I messed up one. Now, as you look at the statistics, one of the things you find is on 10 trials, the odds of getting, let's say, 3 right, any 3, not 3 in a row, but any 3, they actually aren't that high. They fall off really quickly as you get to higher numbers. But, one of the issues that concerned us was how do we communicate this to the claimant? If they get 3 right, are they going to say, well, I didn't get the 6 that you claimed I had to get, but you know what, I got 3 right. That's much better than chance. It has to be. That's halfway, right? Well, it's not halfway, right? Yep.
In the unlikely event that you reach the profound discovery stage, how would your evidence hold up to scrutiny?
Well, the first thing to note is the preliminary demonstration does not produce a profound discovery. At least we're not going to give the prize based on the preliminary demonstration. There's part of the reason that actually we divided this into preliminary demonstration and final demonstration. If you look at the numbers, you can see that if he performed perfectly on 10 trials, that's better than 1,000,000 to 1. But we still wouldn't give him the prize. And part of that is we want to look at the videotape and see what we missed. If Leonard hadn't been around, we would have missed this, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it depends on how well we do our job. And if in the statistically unlikely case that someone passes the preliminary investigation, lots of people are going to think really hard about this and get a hold of every really smart friend they've got and talk to every scientist they know and make sure that if there is a profound discovery there, it'll stand up. I hope to find out.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time talking about would it be possible for this guy to pass? What we don't know, what we don't know, and so we spent a lot of time thinking about hypotheses that we would walk into. These are things that we think that he could do, and things that we were looking for, and possible cheats, possible possible scientific techniques, possible errors in the protocol. And so we tried to construct something where in the event that he passed the preliminary challenge, we'd at least be able to figure out maybe where we'd gone wrong. Or frankly, we talked about the fact that it's possible, highly unlikely, but possible, that he passes the preliminary demonstration by chance. And then what do we do? Well, you know what? We're going to do our analysis, we're going to look hard at the science, and frankly, the $1 million challenge, had we not found the errors, would have looked a lot, $50,000 challenge would have looked a lot like the preliminary demonstration, only with higher odds. He would have had to pass more trials. So we would have used something very similar, we probably would have tweaked it a little bit. Question back here.
Yes, but the protocol would look the same, but the controls on what he did, how close he could get to the boxes and the like, we probably would have typed.
All right, I'd first just like to say that I'm very skeptical of extrasensory perception and things like that, but I'm particularly skeptical of large-scale effects like the ones involved in your challenge. But I get
So are we.
Yeah,
Yeah, really.
but I get very confused when I see peer-reviewed studies published about small but significant effects, like at the Institute of Noetic Sciences or the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab and things like that, which would never pass the 5,000 to 1 or million to 1. Thoughts on that?
Small effects are not the same as sporadic effects, are not the same as statistically insignificant effects. So you can have a deviation of chance. Let's say you're doing a coin flip, and by chance it's 50-50. You can construct an experiment where the odds of getting 53%, a number which I'm not pulling out randomly, or you can get 53% of the time getting one as opposed to the other, and construct the number of trials and the protocol around it so that the odds of that happening by chance are 1 million to 1. So a small effect is not the same thing as an effect for which the statistics are poor.
Yeah.
So you can certainly check.
That I do understand, but these are, I've checked out the statistics. I have a background in